to What's in the Box, episodes of horror with Donna and Eric. I'm Donna.
And I'm Eric.
And joining us tonight is RJ Rolls. How are you, RJ?
I'm doing pretty good tonight.
Good,
Glad to
good.
be back on What's in the Box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for
Well, when
joining
you said
us.
this was your favorite or one of your favorite stories, I thought we better have somebody on here that can talk positive about this story.
Yeah.
Oh, come
No,
on
I'm
now.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. Shots fired. But
Yeah,
no, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. So
yeah. So before we get started talking about the book, we got to ask you our questions because the last
Yes,
time you were
finally.
on was like I don't know, it was very early on in the podcast and we had just started up. So Freddie, Michael, or Jason?
Jason Voorhees all the way, of course. The only good choice there.
Um,
I,
yep.
yeah, I mean, of course. So
Yeah, of course, of course. I gotta say, I've been watching, was it last weekend? I watched like 5 of the Jason movies, the Friday the 13th movies. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I can kind of see why Jason's
There's
the most
there's a
popular.
through and through continuity to all the movies if you watch them in a row. There's
Hmm.
yeah.
continuity there.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And now werewolves or vampires?
Oh, I've been waiting for this one. It's like what is it? 8-2 for every guest you have. So I'm absolutely going to go with the vampires.
All right.
Are you doing that out of spite or are you?
No, I like a good vampire story. Like
Yeah.
I've never really read or watched many werewolf movies that I would go back to over and over again. So like vampires, yeah, there's a bunch of vampire movies and stuff that I will rewatch and or read.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on the reading part. I mean, I can only think of out of all the ones we read, I'd probably go do the Howling again, for the werewolf side of it. But on movies, there's so many werewolf movies I'd watch over and over again.
Oh yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
rarely go back to vampire. But you're right, Lost Boys is one you'd watch a lot if you like vampires. And you're always telling me in the DMs how much you enjoyed the first Twilight movie. So I understand that you would go back
See,
to that.
always going to be Team Edward, never Team Jacob. See,
There you go.
Oh my
but
gosh. You Are you serious? You like Twilight?
There's nothing wrong with Twilight.
what's wrong with Twilight, Donna? Do you know how
Yeah.
many readers
Don't be a
Twilight
hater.
brought?
You
Don't be a
know,
hater.
it's just I don't know. I think when Twilight first came out, um, it the first movie was okay, and then I watched the second one. The second movie was okay, but then I'm like, I don't even think I watched past the third. What were there like 4 or 5 movies, something like that?
Like 5 or 6, I think, because they
Yeah,
kept
they
splitting them
split the
up.
last one like they do
Yeah,
with everything now.
and I never read the books. It is funny that Twilight is mentioned because I've seen either on Facebook Reels or on Instagram or something. There's this account that does like these reenactments of scenes from Twilight, and it's this one guy playing all the different parts, and
That's
it's
funny.
hilarious because as I'm watching these scenes, I'm like, holy crap, it's pretty accurate. Of course, it's like he puts like a comedy spin on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny. I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what's your favorite vampire movie?
I mean, yeah, like it would have to be up there with Lost Boys. I didn't do any research. Despite I've never read the book, but despite what people might think about it, I really like the original Anne Rice Interview with the Vampire. Like I mean, I watched it as a young adult or a kid, and there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of good vampire lore in there. So it's got less of the erotica she's known for in that version. It's in there, but it's like a good little horror movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't remember the last time I saw Interview with a Vampire. I remember seeing it in the theater. I don't know if I've ever gone back. So I would have seen, what was that, 92? Something like that?
90,
94?
94 is what I want
Something
to say.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe I'll go revisit it. I'm not a huge Anne Rice person, so that's a problem.
And I
And
have
what were you gonna say?
Oh, I have watched the new Interview with the Vampire series that AMC did. That was decent. It gets real heavily into the erotica, but is entertaining. So
Yeah, I haven't checked that out yet.
Yeah,
it
my
was
aunt was actually just telling me I should watch that.
pretty decent. It's worth a watch. But um the season of whichever number season the American Horror Story was, Crimson Tide, or was it Crimson Tide or Red Tide? It was
No
like
idea.
double feature is the name of the season. And the first half was vampires, and
Wasn't
the second half was
Hotel,
aliens.
wasn't
No,
Hotel vampires kind of like because Lady Gaga was in that one and she was a vampire. I think maybe it was a bunch of different things
yeah,
in Hotel.
it was like a big mashup with the hotel one, but I mean the hotel one, yeah, I
I've
like.
never seen any of them, so I don't know.
Really?
There you
Never.
go. Now we have something to do. We can go episode by episode if you want and do season recaps. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, I never sat down and
Seasons.
watched any of it.
shame on you.
Missing a
Well,
lot of good because
Nah.
it's getting the bads adding up to equal with the good with American Horror Story the longer it goes on, but
yeah.
the first five seasons are really strong. Especially
Roanoke though.
no, never Roanoke. I think that's
Roanoke,
Mike Innenbach's favorite season, according to him.
really?
I think
Oh,
so.
that was
Yeah, that's weird.
awful.
But like Asylum, just the whole aesthetic of Asylum is just so creepy to me.
Hmm.
Yeah, that does sound. I mean, all of it sounds interesting, but I don't have the attention span to sit down and watch it. So
Yeah, I think I started watching American Horror Story like with season three, and then I went back and watched season one, Murder House, and I forget what season two was called. Um,
Asylum,
season two was Asylum.
yeah,
Um, and then I'm like, oh, this is great. And Freak Show and Coven, those were two of my
Coven.
favorites.
And then in some of the later seasons, they bring it full circle and bring in old seasons to match up with the new seasons. It's pretty cool, but he's got away or away from a lot of that. And this new season, that ain't it. That ain't it for me.
yeah, I've
What
heard a lot
I
of negative on the new one.
Yeah, what I like about American Horror Story, the first few seasons, a lot of returning cast members. It was really interesting to see all the different the cast members playing different characters,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, in this like Kathy Bates was in a few seasons. She played a bunch of different characters. Um,
Yeah, no, I know. I've seen, whatever that previews in the old days, and I had a friend that watched it, kept me up with it, but yeah, I never sat down and actually watched it. So
yeah. So what we're actually going to talk about tonight is The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. Let me just share my screen here so we can see our covers. Um, this was my first time reading The Halloween Tree, or reading anything by Ray Bradbury, actually. Um, so I don't know. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a fun story. It's definitely YA, young adult.
yeah,
But I
Yeah.
could see how in 1972 kids might find this terrifying, you know?
Oh yeah. Like this is top tier horror for kids back then.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Now the reason we have you on here is because we heard that this was your favorite book or one of your favorite books. So, tell us about how you were introduced to it and, how many times have you read it? Do you know a number?
I was trying to think of that this past week when I reread it to come on here. I want to say I've read it probably 5 or 6 times front to back. Um, my first reading, I didn't get into a lot of reading until, the last 20 years. So I discovered Ray Bradbury probably around 2010 or so. And anything and everything I could get my hands on. from him, I just devoured. Like he's probably in my one of my top three favorite authors of all time because he just he's very purple prose through and through with all of his writing. And he's wrote The Halloween Tree and Fahrenheit 451 and Martian Chronicles, but The Halloween Tree is just like it encompasses everything for this fall season that we're in. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
it's all right there in one little neat bundle for, to capture that spooky season we all love.
Yeah, this was the first time I read it too. And unfortunately I didn't get to read it. I listened to it. I did an audiobook so I could get it done in time and stuff. And I feel like I may have lost a little bit. Luckily, the audiobook I was following had a dictation section. So I kind of was, when I was able to, I would read it while it was, going on in the background. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was really well done. Very entertaining. I was hesitant because I have read Something Wicked, This Way Comes, and I didn't enjoy it. I don't find it to be the masterpiece that everybody likes to claim.
Mm.
But I want to revisit that too and see maybe, after reading this, maybe it shines a little differently. But yeah. Oh, what were you gonna say?
I'm due for a reread of that one too. So maybe if y'all do it for this, I'll come on for that. And I'm like you, I was very lukewarm on my first reading of Something Wicked This Way Come.
Yeah, I don't, and it was a recent read too. So I may have read it when I was young and forgotten most of it or whatever. But when I read it within the last couple of years, I was not impressed at all with it. And I almost wondered what was, like what's going on. Everybody's online talking about how great it is. So when I came to the Halloween Tree, I did come into it thinking this may be another case where I don't get it, where it's just not something that I dig, but almost immediately you're pulled into this wonderful world of trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
At that just perfect age, that sweet spot where the kids are able to do what they want to do, but they're not so old that they find themselves embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
That perfect window.
Yeah.
And it's at a time, it's not like today where your parents are taking you everywhere and stuff, it's like probably when we were, I know for me, for sure, the door opened, I was kicked out, told to come back, when you're done and you go trick-or-treating with your friends. So it definitely catches that vibe. And it's got just a wonderful Halloween feel all the way through the entire book.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely pulled me right in. I loved the description of all the costumes that the kids were wearing. And it just was funny to me that I forget which one it was that was dressed up as the witch.
That's Hank or Henry, I think.
Henry Hank
Yeah.
was the witch. Oh, yep, right here. Henry Hank Smith. It's funny that he was dressed up as a witch because witch is typically a female.
Right. But at this point, I was thinking, and I thought the same thing, and we didn't make it part of the assignment. But after I finished the book, I went and hunted down. There's an animated movie that came out in 2012, I think, and Ray Bradbury rewrote it for the animation, or he wrote the script for the animation, however you want to word it. And in that one, they pare the characters down to 4 kids. And it's Tom Skeleton, it's Ralph the Mummy, it's the kid that's the gargoyle, and then instead of it being a boy witch, it's a girl named Jenny. So they do switch it when it gets to a newer audience, but I think in a way he's really just calling him a warlock. They don't really go into any details on that. Did they get into it? Does he have a long nose or anything? It's just him with the broom and kind of being a witch, right?
Yeah.
So
and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised because when they were going through and they were in England and Ireland, I think it was, with the witches.
Yeah, when they're doing the druid or whatever.
They were just referring to everybody as witches that were witches, right. The men and the women. So maybe I shouldn't have been surprised that he was dressed up as a witch, because I guess maybe warlock maybe might be a more recent term. And when I say more recent, I don't mean like I mean like because this was written in 72, so
Yeah, I
maybe
think really what he's doing is that he's aiming towards his readership, and all
yeah.
kids know what a witch is.
Yeah,
They might be confused if you try and be technical with it.
yeah,
I also think all the characters are boys because we're talking what mid 70s, and we are talking about even though it's the right age for trick or treating, it's really not the right age for interaction between the two sexes at this point. You know what I mean?
right,
Usually,
right.
your
Yeah.
group of friends are going to be all boys, all girls.
Hmm.
So I can see why he did that. And he has to have a witch character in there if he's going to include that section in the book. So it does make sense that he has it that way. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think they fixed it with the animation because it does come across as a little more, I don't know, realistic that it's a girl,
Yeah,
however that works. So
yeah,
I think around that same time is when they had did the illustrated edition of the Halloween tree. And you might have that cover on here. It's like the cover
yep.
I use on Facebook. And I think he's portrayed as the long-nosed,
Long
green-skinned
nose. Yeah, I actually, can you
Wicked
see
Witch of
that?
the West type.
No,
No,
nope,
we
you can't see it.
nope,
But
because
I
your
actually,
magical background.
yeah, I actually have it. It's the yearling version. Um, that's the one I have, and I do. Let's see. This is looks like it's the audiobook cover, because it says read by Bronson Pinchot,
yeah.
which cracks me up because I don't think of Bronson Pinchot reading horror, even though this is like a YA, a young adult horror.
I
And
also did it on audio this time, and it's on YouTube, and it's done by June Carter, who you wouldn't think would be
Hmm,
yeah, I think that's really
into the
cool.
horror. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
but she did an excellent job narrating it. So
Well,
I really
yeah, and at
liked
no
it.
point do I think of this as horror. I mean,
Yeah,
it is, but it's not. You know what I
it's like
mean? This is more of an adventure tale.
a
I don't know, man.
It's got horrific elements. I mean, dealing with the death and stuff that is scary in its own way, but it
Yeah,
has that same vibe as Treasure Island, and
yeah.
uh and you'll have. But again, we can go back to my argument. Everything's horror, and so yeah, in that way it is. But I think this one is a little broader and can
mm,
be seen through a ton of lenses. So
yeah,
it's not horror in the sense like we did with the Howling and some of the werewolf stuff, but yeah, I could see the horrific nature of some of the things, but it really comes across as an adventure. Um,
Yeah,
a
there's no
young,
real stakes in the story until you get to the very end when Mr. Malmshroud poses them with the question of what they're willing to give to
yeah,
save Wiccan.
yeah. This one must be the original cover, because I can see the price is $1.75.
boy, I think
Um,
wouldn't it be
That,
even, I would think it'd be even cheaper in 75. Maybe this is
that
but
is
yeah, it could be.
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
maybe the paperback, but the original cover is not that.
no,
Yeah, I
It's
just picked
more,
5 covers. I don't know if I
yeah.
got the original cover in there, but it's pretty
that's the
cool.
original cover right
Okay.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is the original cover. Oh, okay.
Yes.
And
Because
that
this
feels
is the
very Martians
yeah,
chronically.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you could definitely see Mount Shroud with his
Yeah.
cape in the back.
I
This
wouldn't
is the
mind getting a copy of that just to see the illustrations on the inside. That sounds great. And I
yeah.
thought this was very cool. This is the one you can get now on
Yeah, this
Amazon.
is the one I have. And it's funny because when I first was looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's all these kids in costume. And then it like had laid it down next to me and I looked over and I'm like, oh, it's a skull. And then I
Yeah.
like really was looking at it and I'm like, the costumes make up the skull. Like here's the
Yep.
teeth, but it's actually the sleeve of the kid's costume. The mummy and the sickle um from death there. He's it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's your traditional witch right there.
Yeah,
Yep,
for sure.
with the long nose.
But also I think that's kind of fun is that the costumes are all generic in a way. And that's
Yeah,
fun to go back to a time when we weren't, everybody wasn't branded with something.
All
yeah,
the yeah, all the is what's funny is another thing doing with the times it was written was all these costumes and the boys in the books are all, relevant today, except for the transient or the bum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's sitting there in the background, but that's kind of like, yeah, even me growing up, that was kind of like a valid costume you could do for Halloween,
Yeah, the
but
hobo,
the
right? You put
hobo,
it on
yeah,
Hmm.
the
but not
stick with
The
the
anymore.
stick with the kerchief
Yeah, the
tied
yeah.
like a
eagle.
package. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. I really liked the way it went through. Like, I had no expectations. I had no idea what I was going to be reading. I knew it was about a tree that had a bunch of pumpkins on it. That was pretty much all I knew. And then when they first took off on the kites, and that was um, made from the paper and the flyers from the circus type
yeah,
thing. I thought it was pretty cool how they like went to the different things that match the costumes. You know, they started off in Egypt with the mummy, and then they went to England and Ireland. And my favorite part was the gargoyles.
When they
You
go
that
to
know,
the
Notre
note.
Dame.
Yeah,
yeah,
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thought that was my favorite part.
It's definitely Ray Bradbury's love note to Halloween and the history of Halloween. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what you're going to get from this story if you read it. It's just
Yeah,
it's a history lesson written in prose, lyrical prose as it is.
hmm,
But
yeah.
yeah,
When I had finished reading it, I had posted it on Books of Horror, and someone actually had said that they were from Ireland, and they had recently, I think probably like last week, had read it, and she said the part where they were in Ireland and getting the history of Samhain or Samhain, is that how they really say it?
yeah,
Um,
I think that's the Gaelic pronunciation.
yeah. She's like, that was so wrong. Um, and she's like, it kind of took me out of the story. And I didn't like ask her, oh, what was wrong about it?
Well,
Um,
yeah, because it's the Americanized
it's the
interpretation of whatever it is that they're
Yeah.
doing. And
Hmm.
he's
Yeah,
not talking about what's going on today in the celebration. He's trying to show us what at that period of time was what the historical
Yeah.
representation of it is. I'm sure most of this is in a way, fancified. It is a fictional story, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I could see that too, is if you were like, oh, well, this isn't how we do it, so I was upset by that. But I think overall it's just a fun story that you can read that's a pretty quick read too. It didn't I remember struggling through the other one. Now I can't think of what it is.
something wicked this way come.
Yeah, I remember, putting it down thinking, well, not engaged in it. And this one I was interested to go back. And when I finished it, I was interested to see the animated one just to see the differences and also to kind of cement it in my head since I had listened to it. I wanted to make sure that I was paying attention to the characters and maybe the themes. Um,
Yeah, it's a
but
fast moving story that,
yeah,
Hmm.
doesn't linger on any one thing, so you're always engaged with the story itself.
and I guess it is in a way, it's a lot of telling because he is trying to tell us the history behind how Halloween is there. And so maybe that is part of it,
Yeah.
that some people don't like about it. But because I did read a critique where it was like that there's no actual plot, that there's no actual anything here except for a step by step, explanation of Halloween, and that he
Hmm.
doesn't really follow anything until the end, like you said, then that's when you find out why the kids are on this adventure or whatever. Now I will
Yeah.
Yeah,
tell you the animated thing does a better job of letting us know what's wrong with Pip. Um, the and we haven't even discussed that. The whole point of this is these 8 boys get together. They're ready to go to Halloween, but they're looking for their leader, the boy
yeah,
that's the most
the
boyish of
bestest
everyone.
boy, the
Yeah.
Yeah.
bestest
The
boy.
like, yeah, the bestest boy ever.
And
This,
so when they go, he's not there. And in the book, he's just not there, right? No, he's there,
No,
but
he's
he
there.
doesn't feel good. And he's holding his side and he says, I'll catch up.
Yeah.
And then later we find out that he's sick. The animated one, they get to the kid's house and he's being loaded into an ambulance and driven away. And they're chasing the ambulance, and that's when they get to the house with the Halloween tree. And I feel that's a little cleaner than the book.
Yeah.
But at the same time, either one works. And the would you call him a villain? The
No, not
Mound
Mr.
Shroud?
Mountroud.
Mound
Yeah,
Shroud.
he's
No,
not
No.
really. But
No.
he's
he's very
neutral.
interesting.
He's neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In,
It's funny.
in the way, the only way, I guess. Well, I guess maybe because that's neutral. So is that
Yeah,
our point? Is
yeah,
Yeah.
that but he did have, I mean, his point is that he wasn't really neutral in what he was going to do with Pip. I mean, he was going after Pip to finish the job.
Yep.
You know, like the hand had been dealt to Pip, he thought, and he was going to get him. And that's at the end when he offers the deal to the kids, which of
Yeah.
course, when you're a kid, I don't think you even think about hesitating, saving your friend, right?
oh,
Right.
It isn't until we're much older that we start thinking that maybe we need to hold on to these years.
Yeah.
because
As a kid, you're very I don't know what the word is I'm thinking of, but you know, you're almost
You
you're
think you're
blind to the
immortal.
finality of
yeah, you
life.
don't you're gonna be reckless with those final years because I mean that they don't even matter. They don't count.
Yeah.
What is that to today, you know? So
Yeah.
I wasn't surprised when all the kids eagerly threw in their last years to save him. So
Yeah. Yeah.
which was a nice end. You know, I mean, you could go either way with that.
Yeah.
So,
It was funny because when I first started reading it, when you first meet Pipkin, and they said something like he was pale and he was holding his side, and I'm like, oh, this
yeah.
kid's got appendicitis.
That's
Oh, I'm thinking,
exactly what I
yeah,
thought because I'd forgot the ending. This is y'all's first time reading it.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot what exactly it had, but I could tell the way he wrote it exactly what was wrong with him.
What
And
and in my mind, it was weird that the kid is like, "Hey, something's wrong. I'm sick." You know,
But I don't
I
want to
didn't
tell my
understand that.
parents, you know.
Right? Yeah, I didn't get why that wasn't more apparent to everyone. You know,
Yeah.
kids are very intuitive when
Hmm.
something's wrong, and the group didn't seem to get that there was something wrong. At least I don't recall it in the story. Um, but you know, whatever. But still, I do. Yeah, it's a fun idea. The whole idea that their souls are the pumpkins in the tree and that outside the house and in the movie, Leonard Nimoy plays Mound Stroud,
Oh,
and
really?
so it's cool to he's got the perfect voice for it, and
I'm
and
definitely
so
gonna look
yeah,
up
that's
the
it.
movie though. Yeah,
Huh?
I'm definitely gonna look up the movie though for sure and see what
Yeah.
changes they had made and see what worked better, like you said, with the ambulance and all that. Because 50 years ago, what was an ambulance? It was just like a station wagon painted
Yeah.
white.
You know what I want to tell you? I think that's what it was in this
Yeah.
one. And like I said, this came out in 2012, but it has the feeling of a film taking place in the 50s.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
doesn't feel very modern when they're telling it in the animation style, but no, I really enjoyed the book. I thought all of it was good. I thought it was cool the way they kind of tied everything back together at the end with
Hmm.
the different characters and how they could save the boy. Um,
Yeah. I really like the description of when they were in Mexico and
mhm.
they were talking about how the mothers and daughters were, at the graves and of all the people that had died and lighting the candles. And then when they were describing bringing in the sugar skulls,
yeah,
um, I thought
and
that was pretty cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a good metaphor for them to be able to use that as the way for the kids to save the Pip, breaking
Yep.
his up and letting them eat, consume whatever,
Hmm.
and then him being taken. That was the only other thing I thought was weird. At the end of the story, isn't he just back home?
He's in the hospital.
Is he
Yeah,
in the hospital? Okay,
I
because in
think
the
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
so they go back and visit him in the hospital, or they just see him. I can't remember how
They just
that
go
one
back,
part.
they go to his house to see what was going on, and Tom goes in, and then he comes out. And it's like I was kind of nervous. I'm like, what's going on? Because when Tom came out, he wasn't just like, oh my gosh, he's okay. He's like,
Yeah.
oh Pip. And I'm like, tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
Is he okay or not?
Gotta
But
build
yeah,
that.
it's definitely a simpler time. And like you were saying, Eric, where, when we were kids, our parents were just like, get out and come back when you've got, when the time is up,
Yeah.
and because they were saying they didn't get home until like 2 o'clock, and like Tom went into his house and there were, you know, it wasn't like his mom was up and waiting for him and running out onto the porch. Where were you? It's two
There wasn't
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, there wasn't trick or treat times back then. You went by the porch lights. Were the porch lights on?
Hmm.
Were the porch lights off?
Yep.
And when they were all off, then you were done. Or when you had your pillowcase full of candy, you were
Hmm.
Yep.
done.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then you would and easily could spend an extra hour just looking for somebody who left their porch light on,
Yep.
Yep.
trying to see if you could score one more time before you
Yeah.
left.
Yeah. One
Yeah,
more
it's
piece of
nothing like
candy.
today.
Yep. Yeah. So it was really fun. It was very, I don't know, it was a little nostalgic for me too, with, the trick or treating and the kids all excited for it. And
Were there any more covers?
let's see, I think then there was this one, which is
That's
kind of
the
cool.
illustrated version right there.
Is it? I like that cover. I think it's fun.
Yeah, this version is illustrated as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
But I think
no,
the inside, I think he was saying the whole book's illustrated
yeah, for that
by
one, I
that guy.
believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of wish I had a copy, a paperback or anything that had
Yeah.
illustrations. I think that would have been fun to go through and see. I love the old I mean that's kind of the cool thing about YA is that they will throw in some illustrations. And it's one of the things I
Yeah.
do like about indie horror. Some of the people, will get some illustrations done and put in their books. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely illustrations in this one. You can't see
cool.
them, but like here's the house,
I just like this guy's style.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the style in this one. And I think I sent you also the cover of the animated thing.
Yep. So here's the movie. There's Mound Shroud up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I kept seeing too. It's a Hanna-Barbera.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you got Pip in the middle, and he stole his pumpkin to run and runs away. And then Tom Skeleton, Jenny the Witch, and the Mummy. And I don't see the other boy, but they have one more boy that's the gargoyle.
Gargoyle.
Yeah.
It looks like this is in was it? No, that's the desert, right?
That's when they're
Yeah.
in Egypt. That's when they
Yeah.
go to Egypt in that first part. They watch the mummies get wrapped. And then we
Yeah.
had them go to, like you said, Ireland and do some of the stuff there. And they go to medieval times, and there's the witches
Mm-hmm.
and Notre Dame with the gargoyles, Day of the Dead, and go through that kind of. It's kind of a cool, um, like you said, just to dip your toes into it. And you can see different things that might pull you in and make you more interested in looking at the true story behind
Yeah,
Yeah.
Halloween.
you get a little bit of culture with this book, like just
Mm-hmm.
other than what we know, we get to see all kinds of perspectives.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, since this is
So
y'all's first time reading it, I would challenge y'all next time, come up with a book that encapsulates uh fall, autumn, Halloween more than this one, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you can.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I can think of some that I've read when I was younger that I might that make me feel put me in the Halloween spirit. And I might go and pull out a couple, Night in the Lonesome October. That one, although it has nothing really to do with Halloween at all, it always gives me that vibe. So,
It
but
does.
yeah, if I'm looking at something that I'm handing off, especially if I was trying to get somebody younger,
Yeah.
into it, this is a good one to give them.
Yep. Yeah. So I have to say, very, I was kind of sad when it ended. I was like, oh, I, I would have liked it to be longer.
Yeah, it's a quick
Yeah.
read for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but
Definitely fun.
I think something wicked this way comes is a lot like it. Bradbury just is a master of Middletown, America. That's, I think, in the description in the beginning of this book, Halloween. I don't think he ever names the town. He just says somewhere in the middle of America in a
Mhm.
small town, and he goes
Yep.
down just like that.
And what's funny
Yeah.
though is that he basically makes, I'm sure we all thought of our hometowns or
Exactly.
wherever we were at that age point.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't necessarily mean it was in middle America, but he definitely captures the feeling of growing up in no matter where you grow up, I think you feel that
Yeah. He makes.
wonder and awe, especially during the times like Halloween, Christmas, things like that. So
Mhm.
he
Yeah.
does a great job of capturing that and pulling you into it
Yeah.
and
He gives you
letting your
something
mind, fill in the
to
blanks.
relate to right then and there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't know about anybody else, but at the end of the story, I actually was kind of sad for Moundshroud because he was just like all by himself, and he wasn't going to see the boys again, and
We don't
you
know
know,
that. He could see him in a year.
He
yeah,
he was
yeah,
He didn't
definitely
promise
going
them
to
how
see
long.
them again. He promised them that.
yeah,
Yeah.
true. I
So
just, I don't know. He just gave me at the end like lonely vibes, you know, like
yeah.
he's
I mean, are we gonna say whether Moundstroud is the Grim Reaper himself or an agent of death or what? Like that's up to interpretation in itself.
Yeah.
yep,
Death is a lonely business, you know. It's the
Yeah.
mhm,
last thing you'll ever do.
yep,
Yeah, and he's definitely more personification of death than what a lot of times what we and especially in literature will think of death as more of the devil or Satan trying to steal the souls. This guy was just doing his job, punching the clock and taking them as they
Yeah.
came. So
yeah,
so he would be more, I think, like the Grim Reaper. Kind of almost makes you think, and that may be why he was so upset, because here's somebody who's been going through this over the years and seeing all these different ceremonies and celebrations of the time, and then he sees almost how commercial it's become, and we're talking in a time where it probably wasn't anywhere near as commercial as it is now, and he's
Right.
just like, hey, you guys don't even understand what you're celebrating or how you're doing it, and then takes him on this thing. So
this journey
um,
to learn about
yeah,
it.
so
Yeah.
I totally great character. I thought he did it. It's a fun book. This is probably the best thing we've read in a while.
Hmm.
That werewolf series was just just really put us back. So,
Yeah.
but this was a great
Yeah.
kickoff for the classics,
Yeah.
and I thought a fun way to start the whole Halloween. It really helps get you in the mood.
Hmm. Yep. Most definitely.
I don't think we did go over on this book the proposition Mouseshroud gave the boys at the
No,
end. So
yeah,
we did say that you or Eric said that Pipkin was on his deathbed. He was done. He was going to be, taken then and there. And at the end of the book, after Mouseshroud gives his course through history of what Halloween means to different people, where it began, what it's become, he asked the boys would they give 1 year of their life to save Pipkin. And I don't think there was any hesitation between any of the boys. It was for Pipkin, the best boy. So
yeah. They had a discussion with each other. It felt like, but not
Yeah.
in a way of
it's
of
like, of
any kind of
course I want
argument.
to.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was like a rallying cry.
yeah,
Yeah.
Um, I think that is the true moment of horror that you could pull from this.
yeah.
That's when the story becomes horrific, is
And
when you have children, sacrificing something that important.
And
But
it's
again,
the
like we said,
last, yeah, it's the last year of their life. So you never know when that's going to be,
yeah.
yeah,
you know?
imagine if just one was a holdout. I wonder how that would have changed the story in the
Mm,
end.
Well, yeah, and I wonder if he would have been okay if just the skeleton kid decided. Tom Skeleton, what if he's the only one that stepped up? Would he still give him, the thing? But I
Yeah,
think that just shows you how united they were in their friendship and in
yep.
this, environment or whatever. So, and that's another fun thing about small town. Usually you'll find these packs of friends that are 3 to 8, in size, and they're all kind of together and stuff.
oh
I
yeah,
mean, even when you do the Stephen King stories, almost always, like even the kids from It, there's 7 of
Losers.
those.
Yeah,
So yeah, you'll always find, even if they're not the popular kids or whatever, there's still going to be a group of something there. And so everybody can relate to that. Everybody has a group, I think.
absolutely.
All right, now it is time for the Not Stephen King Book of the Week. And because it's the week before Halloween and we just talked about the Halloween tree, I wanted to talk about a Halloween story that I had just read. The author is actually called, her name is Penny Moonz with a Z on the end of Moon. Somehow I just found this author on Instagram and I read one of her other books, Slasher Witch at the Water Park, and I really enjoyed her style. So she messaged me and said, "Hey, I have this Halloween book coming out, or that just came out. Do you want to read it?" So this is a fun Halloween story. It takes place in 1975. It seems to me to be a little bit of a homage to Michael Myers' Halloween, because there's this guy and he's stalking this girl who's babysitting on Halloween night. And they do kind of things. The only difference is Pumpkin Man actually has like a personality. He talks, he drives a car, he just like, you know,
I was gonna
goes
say, I
through.
make the argument Michael Myers drives a car in the first
Oh
Halloween. We
yeah,
watched it over and over again,
yeah. But he goes through a drive-through and
okay,
gets
yeah, that's a little different.
he
Yeah,
gets something to eat and then he just drives off. And
that's funny.
he's kind of almost a silly character. So you kind of like the character of Pumpkin Man, even though he's like doing these brutal things. He's in this one house and he ends up killing these people. And there was a note that the wife had left for the husband, and it said, "Clean up and take out the trash." So he like cleans the house and takes out the trash because he
That's
thought
kind
the
of
note
funny.
was for him. Yeah. So this is a really great book. Again, the name of the author is Penny Moonz with a Z. It's not too long. It's probably about 200 pages. Um, but
Is that
it's
the series title? I mean, I know Pumpkin Man's the title of the book, but is it like part of a series or something?
so she said there is going to be more Pumpkin Man. Jane is the main character in this book. Creepers Landia is like her brand,
Okay.
the author's brand.
This
So
is very confusing cover, but I
yeah,
do like it.
yeah, yeah, it's fun. And like I said, the other book I had read by this author, Slasher Witch at the Water Park,
Uh-huh.
was the same. It was just a fun, a little bit gory, a lot fun. The villain, you're kind of like, they're funny, but they're gross, and I kind of like them. So I'm very interested to see where she takes Pumpkin Man in the future, because she did say there
Sweet.
was going to be a couple more. So definitely check it out if you're looking for a Halloween read. Um, we'll have a link to it down in the description, and definitely give it a shot. It's a fun story.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Listen to you describe it. It sounds like a blue collar slasher villain. Like that's his job, but he's got to do the mundane things in
Yep,
life. So,
Yeah.
yep, exactly. Yeah.
Hey guys, that ending was a little abrupt, so I thought I'd jump on here and let you know that next we're going to do Dracula, and we'll include some of the movies, and that'll probably take up November, and then going into December we're going to stay with the classics, and as soon as I know which way Donna and I want to go, one of us will let you all know. So we'll probably do that on the website. We're going to try and give you guys enough heads up so that if you want to read with us, you guys can. Follow us on the Facebook page or our individual pages, or, always comment below, and we check those periodically. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who spends time watching these. I know Donna and I enjoy making them and talking about old books and new books and bouncing these off, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy it as well. And if you do, click like and subscribe and all of that. So until next time, see y'all later.